Welcome to Guitar Center sessions at Remix Hotel. I'm sitting here with Just Blaze. I am Kylie Swenson, editor of Remix. And we were just hanging out in the panel room with a bunch of guys talking about everything under the sun as far as making music and production. And we didn't even really get to the gear side of things.
Yeah, we didn't.
We were talking so much about the philosophy of I don't know, making money versus making art and all these different things that just for the tail end of it, we started talking about the programs and gears blowing your mind at the moment. And you were talking about Melodyne. So I'd like to kind of expand on that.
Specifically, it's the new version of Melodyne, which isn't released yet, but everybody has just seen this video, and it has all the producers and engineers going crazy. This guy has figured out a way to take chords in recorded music and just break them apart like atoms and rearrange them. It's crazy. As I was just saying, it's like witchcraft or something. Or I don't know how he does that, but I can't wait to get my hands on it. You know, like there's that. There's the new Isotope, I believe it's called RX plugin, which actually uses like a spectrograph to analyze music and can remove, just pretty much remove sounds from recordings, which is great for cleaning up tracks or sometimes just removing complete elements of a song that you don't want anymore. As long as you can isolate this frequency on a spectrograph, it doesn't actually EQ it out, it just removes it, which up until this point we've never had anything like that before. You know, and it's like, it's going to be very interesting because when it comes to hip-hop, we always use things in our own way, not necessarily what they were designed for. People, you know, when they made the SP12 or the SP1200, it wasn't designed for somebody to go and just make a whole beat on. It was a virtual drum machine, you know, and we took it and adapted it. And the same thing with the turntable. It wasn't made for scratching or things like that. We invented that, you know, for lack of having instruments. So I think with plugins like this, it's going to be very interesting to see what comes out of this. The fact that you can now just totally isolate a frequency and remove it from a record, the possibilities are endless. Like, it's all frequency based, so let's say you might try to get rid of a vocal. You may lose some of the strings as well, you know, but just the fact that you can even do that, you know, is crazy. And then with this, it's like, even the fact, let's say you remove a vocal that's sitting in the same frequency range as a string, you may all of a sudden hear other things underneath that were underneath those elements in the record that you didn't hear before. You know, or just the fact that you can take piano chords or guitar chords or just any, you know, chords from a record and not just rearrange them, but change the notes and the placement and everything else. Like, this is a great time. I say this all the time. This is a great time to be 15 years old.
Yeah.
It's the best time ever to be 15 years old. Like, when I was 15, you were lucky to have, like, MIDI Workshop by, I think Creative Labs made it, and it was, like, basically just the way to sequence sounds from your general MIDI card in your computer.
Yeah.
You know, like, and then I think like Roland had that little, was it an MS-20, which was like $600, and it had like a minute of sampling time and stored on these like little proprietary memory cards, and it sounded terrible. Mm-hmm. It was like, you know, my point being that when you were 15 back then, you couldn't really afford the tools to go and make a whole record unless you came from some kind of money. Nowadays, you can be 15 and go pay $90 for some software that would allow you to do everything from start to finish. And the evolution of technology is just only getting crazier.
Yeah.
I think I'm jealous of young people for the first time.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I didn't even know you could record on computers when I was a kid.
Right.
You know, it wasn't I guess it was a possibility, but only the super scientist geniuses knew it at the time.
I remember the first time I ever saw anything like that, and it wasn't really happening, but in there were two specific instances, and one of them, a lot of people who are watching this will probably remember what I'm talking about. But one was the Soul to Soul video for Back to Life, which I think was from '89 or '88, and in the video, their keyboard player is. Now, I'm sure it's all fake because it's a video set, but he had his Mac, like the Mac 2 SE or whatever, like the little Mac with the little black screen built in. He had one of those on the stage with him, and I'm just sitting there like, he's got a computer. like, and he's playing, and the wires are going from the computer to the, you know, at the time, you don't know that it's just a video set.
Yeah.
You know, so they could really throw anything up there. But that was the first thing that really opened my eyes to the fact that you could maybe actually make music with a computer. Mm-hmm. That, and then that old episode of The Cosby Show where they're in the studio with Stevie Wonder, and he makes Rudy talking to the mic, and all of a sudden he starts playing the notes back from the keyboard. And he's like making it say jamming on the one, jamming on the one, jamming on the one. And I must have been like 8, but I'm sitting there like, dude, he's making the keyboard say her voice.
Wow.
And so it's like those kind of, that, and then the third moment was when my best friend got the Casio SK5, which had like 4 seconds of sampling time, and it was like $100, and it had the 4 little yellow drum pads on it and it sounded terrible, but it was just like, you know, I'm like, all right, if you could do this with this, then you got to be able to do this with your computer. You know, so like, but even though you could do it back then, it was so rudimentary and or elementary rather. You know, just the fact that you can do the things you do now is just mind-boggling when you really think about it.